Hey everybody, Austin here again with another Let's Play walkthrough. Today it's going to be Joe and Mac for the NES. This is a port of an arcade game called Caveman Ninja, originally developed and released by Data East. This version's actually kind of interesting because it was developed, or I should say converted, by a Western studio. Whereas the original game, I believe, was Japanese developed. This was done by a Western studio. And as such, it has some of those Western early 90s quirks. Lots of spammy enemy placement, just enemies just constantly coming out at you from all sides, which did not happen in the arcade original, and I don't know why my graphics are all glitched out right now. Let's see if that actually stays for the rest of the game. We will see. But yeah, this is an interesting conversion. Overall, I think it's actually a pretty fun game. It could be a little challenging when you first get into it, and a big reason for that is, for one, the spammy enemies that come out at you from all sides, but two, the way the game just feels. When you're just standing and attacking and things like that, it doesn't really feel all that great. It takes a while for your attack to come out. However, there is a high jump you can do by pressing up and jump, and when you attack during your high jump, your attacks come out instantly, and so the game becomes instantly just more responsive once you're doing your high jumps. And so that's going to be the trick to this playthrough. I'm going to explain kind of how I go about each stage and deal with all the bosses and stuff like that. So if you, someone that's maybe trying to play this game for the first time, or maybe you're trying to revisit it, hopefully this video can help you get back up to speed and help you get into it and find the fun, as we like to say. So there is an options menu here you can access by hitting the select button. There's not much. It's just like, you know, music on or off, things like that. There aren't really any difficulty settings, unfortunately. But let's go ahead and hit the start button here and just jump right in. A little bit of an introduction here. Basically, these cave dudes come in and they steal all the women from your tribe. And so Joe and Mac have to go and you know, beat some dinosaurs down and some cave dudes down, and then save their cave women. So you can attack multiple ways in this game. You can actually just attack forward by pressing the B button, and then you can hold up and attack with the B button as well. Now, one thing that's actually really interesting about the vertical attack here is that it actually does more damage than your forward attack. It makes zero sense. So just, you know, when you're attacking overhead enemies like these tiny pterodactyls that are going to be attacking us for pretty much the entire playthrough, use your vertical attack if they're right overhead if you can. But again, up and A lets you do a high jump. Now there's another critical mechanic as well, the charge attack, which was actually taken straight from the arcade game. So in the arcade game, you could actually hold down the attack button, your character would flash, and then you would throw your projectile farther, and it, you know, should do more damage in most cases. Now you have to be really careful about it, because if you overcharge, your character will actually get winded and you'll lose a lot of health. So you have to be really careful with the charge attack. But for this first boss here, I just like to do my high jump over and over and just time my attacks. And for some reason my controls are not being the most responsive right now, and so I kind of messed up. But notice how I'm sort of tapering my attacks. You don't have to just mash the button as fast as you can. You know, you can just, you know, time your attacks skillfully, as I like to say. So I basically jump, and as I go up, I attack once, and as I come back down, I attack a second time. I sort of just space out my attacks, or taper them. And so yeah, we're on level 2 now. This game is actually not all that long. It'll probably take us about 15 or 20 minutes to go through the whole thing. And we're gonna get our first weapon here, and the weapons seem to be a little random in this game. And it's the wheel. Okay, that's good. That's actually exactly what I want. The wheel is the best weapon in the game. It's the most powerful. It goes really far when you charge it up, and again, it's just the most powerful. So pretty much all the projectiles in this game, you can shoot 2 at a time when you're in the air. When you're on the ground, you can shoot 2 back to back, but the timing is a little weird depending on the weapon that you're using. Yeah, we've got the wheel. The wheel goes all the way across the screen on the floor, which is great. And this is our second boss. What I like to do is actually just sit back and jump over his projectiles that he just always spits out of his mouth. He can only have a maximum of 2 projectiles on screen at once. There'll either be little dinos like that, or there'll be rocks, or a combination of the two. I got a pretty good pattern there where he just spat rocks out over and over. I find the rocks to be a little bit easier to avoid because they have a more constant speed. The little dinos will land on the ground and crawl across a little slowly. But I kind of made a big deal out of the wheel there. I was just really surprised I got it because during my practice sessions of this game, I constantly got the boomerang on the second level. And then in my more recent playthroughs, for some reason, I've been getting the wheel, which is odd. The wheel is by far the best weapon in the game. If I had the boomerang and I got to this level, I would be forced to switch up to the hammer that you saw drop from that cave guy. If you have the boomerang when you get to this boss fight, easily the hardest boss fight in the game, if you ask me, you're not going to beat the boss. You're going to lose because the boomerang doesn't go all the way across the screen. So the trick with this guy is to sit all the way in the back, and you're gonna have to take some damage here and there, unfortunately. You've got the pterodactyls that just constantly come in, like so. And what I want to do is just charge up my attack and just throw it over the enemies into the fly trap there. And that was a decent fight. I took 1 or 2 hits, nothing too crazy there. The big threat to that fight is if you get too far to the right, he sucks you in and you die instantly. So you have to stay pretty much to the far left. You can try killing the tiny Venus flytraps that come out, but it's not worth it. It's just a waste of time. It takes way too many hits to kill them, and you're better off just sitting back, eating a few hits, and just using your charge attack to throw the projectiles over top of everything onto the boss fight. Now you'll notice that I'm not spending a lot of time attacking enemies here in these levels. It's because a lot of enemies take a lot of hits to kill, and I feel like it's just sort of a time waster. So I just prefer mostly, in most cases, to just jump over enemies in this game. And this is our first pterodactyl boss. There are 2 of them in the game. The game does like the palette swap bosses that you've already fought. But for this guy, the safe strategy is just to sit down on the ground, kind of like this, and just shoot upwards like so, and your wheels or whatever projectile you might have here will just land right on his head. So he's gonna dive down, just shoot up. Oh, I missed. Now the big problem is that you've got all these tiny pterodactyls and they're just completely random. I've found 0 rhythm or rhyme to their patterns, which makes the game harder, but it also makes it hard to feel like you're truly in control and like you've got a good chance to get, say, a damageless run or something like that. And so I do find the boss fights fun. I do find the game itself fun for the most part, but it's not as fun as it could be because I feel like there's a lack of control due to all just the randomly, spawning pterodactyls. Later on, it's going to be these white birds that just come out at you from all sides like the pterodactyls, but they're even beefier and it's hard to kill them. So yeah, I basically just try to go through the levels just relatively quickly. I just try to jump over the enemies when I can. These guys with the pots are the ones that drop weapons. I try to just avoid them completely because I don't want to lose my wheel. That was the tooth, which is kind of like a throwing dagger. It's the worst weapon in the game, if you ask me. There's also a flame, but you rarely ever see the flame in a playthrough, and so I just never even bothered to pick it up. I know from other versions of the game, the flame is not all that great either. So again, it's just all about that wheel. So this guy has a bunch of patterns. Sometimes he'll just dive all the way across the screen. Other times he'll come in from the top just like so, and then in those instances you just want to charge up from a distance and then throw your, throw your projectile just like that. Hit him in the eyeball. And you are not timed in this game, so you really don't have to worry about missing as long as you're taking your time and you're not getting killed by, randomly spawning pterodactyls. Honestly, this is like one of the best bosses in the game because it's one of the few that actually doesn't have constantly spawning enemies. It's actually kind of nice. And I wish more bosses were like this. More bosses in other versions of Joe and Mac are like this, where it's literally just you versus the boss, not other respawning enemies that fly in, from all sides of the screen. But alright, we're making pretty good progress here. With these rocks, sometimes I'll just go ahead and use my wheel on them. Same with these cave guys. Now, again, the cave guys with the pots, I'm going to try to just, jump over them. The big reason for that is when you kill them, they drop a weapon. And that weapon all of a sudden becomes a threat because, with all these respawning enemies, you could slam right into that weapon after taking a hit, and you go from your wheel to your axe or your hammer or whatever it's called. Now, there's a little trick on this guy you can do. I figured this out the other day. You can actually, if you do it just right, you can sit right underneath him like this. And it's not 100% safe because of the pterodactyls, but it's a fun little strategy I figured out just recently that, you know, you could sit in the back and, like, you know, just jump high and just throw your weapons on top of his face. But it's just fun being able to take advantage of the fact that you can get right underneath his chin and just, you know, throw your wheels up into it. So you also notice when I'm playing this game, I like to constantly just sort of shoot like this. Running, jumping, shooting. Just keeping the projectiles going, because they go all the way across the screen, even on the floor. Now, you also notice that one of those enemies actually dropped a fruit. That actually gives you a little bit of health back. And unfortunately, the power-ups in this game are pretty much completely random as well. I've found no rhythm or rhyme to the like the fruit drops and things like that. Now, there is one little trick you can do in this guy. If you get him up close, it is actually possible to avoid his projectiles just by sitting right in front of his face. But again, the pterodactyls come and screw up your plan. So even though I'm sitting right in front of him, avoiding his projectiles, the pterodactyls are going to hit me. See? So, probably the worst design choice in this game, if you ask me, is the pterodactyls. And I try not to criticize the games too much that I play on my channel, but it is a big issue in this game, and it's going to set some people off. They're not going to enjoy this game because of the spammy enemies that just constantly come out. It basically removes, you know, any semblance of control you might have over the game. Like that boss fight, it would have been really cool to just control that whole fight by sitting right in front of his face, avoiding the projectiles, but I can't because the pterodactyls are going to hit me. So, but yeah, these are the little birds I was talking about. Honestly, it's best to just avoid them. Now, you can hit them with a charge shot, which can be useful as well. Or you can try to shoot two back to back after a double jump, but not always the easiest thing to do, because look at that, one came from behind me. It was just a surprise. So, alright, so another pterodactyl boss. It's just like the one previously, except now we have even more little pterodactyls coming out from all sides. And so again, what you can do is just stay on the floor, kill the enemies as they come in with your vertical attack, because again, your vertical attack is a little more powerful than your standard forward attack. You can also try to, you know, hit him as he comes in with a double jump air attack, which allows you to sort of mash the button and try to get multiple hits, maybe 3 or 4 if you're lucky. But again, safe strat is just to sit on the bottom, just shoot vertically like so. When he comes in and stops like that, he's always going to dive down just like so. Now the big pterodactyl, he never hits the ground, so you can always duck him. So you can always duck the big guy. It's the little guys that are the most dangerous. You've got to watch out for them. And only 2 more levels to go. This is the second to last level in the game. And so again, with these birds, what I like to do is just sort of at this point, it just basically becomes a dodging game. I don't even bother attacking anymore. It's just about jumping over the enemies completely, just like so, and just dodging. If you played a lot of shoot-em-ups and stuff like that, this sort of gameplay style will come a little more naturally to you. It's all about finding the gap and then making sure your character lands in it. One of the nice things about this game is that you do have a lot of mid-air control with your character, and so it's actually not too bad to try to, you know, find the gap. Just like the first dino, I just want to sit back and use my charge attack, throw the projectile all the way across the screen. Does some good damage if you have the wheel. Now, if you are going through the game with just the hammer, it is a lot more difficult because the hammer is extremely weak compared to the wheel. So I am making the game look a little bit easier than it might be on a first playthrough. In my first couple of practice sessions with this, I actually did struggle because I died a lot and I kept getting stuck with the hammer. When you die, you lose the weapon that you have and you get sent back to having the hammer. This is the final level, by the way, and again, just like before, I am just trying to dodge these enemies. Sometimes you can duck underneath the birds, but sometimes they also get too low to the ground. Alright, this is our final boss right here, and so we're basically just going to be trading hits. So again, it's all about using my double jump. So I have more mid-air control and more flexibility on where my attacks go. And that's it. That was actually a pretty good pattern. There is one where he goes all the way across the screen, and when he does that, you need to duck. I wasn't able to demonstrate that, but that's it. That's the ideal pattern that you want to get, is him just staying on the right-hand side of the screen so you can double jump, dodge enemies, and then attack him at the same time. So that's Joe and Mac for NES. Not much of a walkthrough, actually. I mean, I walked you through it, but it's kind of hard to explain this one as you go because everything just flows so quickly, you know, from level to level. Like, we haven't even hit 20 minutes yet. We've already beaten the game. So, very, very short game when you know what to do. Unfortunately, there aren't any other difficulty settings or anything like that. I would have liked to have seen like a hard mode or something like that, just to give it some more replay value. But that is Joe and Mac on the NES. Despite some of its faults, I still think it's a really fun game. Well, I'm a little biased, though. I did own this one as a kid, so I did play it a lot growing up. But I think it still holds up pretty decently. Once you get in, you figure out how the mechanics work. You get used to the level and enemy level progression and how the bosses work. You deal with the constantly spawning pterodactyls, and you learn to use your double jump and attack responsively. Because if you're standing on the ground attacking, you attack much slower, or if you just do a regular jump and attack, it's like a ground attack where you're also still really slow. So, not the best thing to do, so you want to be double jumping a lot, or not double jumping, super jumping, high jumping, whatever you want to call it, and getting those rapid shots out, and that's how you can survive a little bit easier. And that's how you can deal with a lot of these boss fights a lot easier too. So, yeah, if you decide to play this game, you know, make sure you're using that high jump. And as always, guys, if you have any questions or comments about this game, feel free to post them down below. If you made it to this point in the video, also leave a comment. Let me know. Let me know how you liked the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you want to see more. But yeah, let me know, and maybe I will make more. If you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. I've got a lot of Let's Plays here and many more to come. I've got a lot of other types of videos as well in the gameplay format, so feel free to check those out. And yeah, for everybody already subbed, thank you for your continued support. And until the next one, take it easy.